The Trinity, page 19, on jury duty. Outside the civil court building in Sioux City, St. Louis Central, I sat in the swollen sunlight beside the suicide of a stiff March wind blowing in the final 4 day of logistical, legal spring sprung and singing. The buddy branches of trees rock erratically while the shadow dance on the concrete that covered the paved earth and confined grass to spots of growth surrounded by concrete that creeps and cracks under springs, wanting, wistful, warmly willing, woven and warm. The blue tongue of the wind lick about my hair that cannot dare to care if the sun-filled air will or will not set it aflame, firmly, fair, held hard and holy by the hard-handed, honest hand of his stoic winds. All the same, my body is a barrier that the wind pushes against, as if to nudge me towards an infinitive question spoken to an earnest ear. Wherefore have the gods hummed me out to dry on the windswept clothesline of a secure time, pregnant with the motion of a squirrel, murmuring the age-old answer buried last fall in the pocket of the earth? Now my poetic crown and emotional vestment, flapping in a legalistic, logistical wind, speak of Moses and laws and his hallucinated friend who gave the first commandment of being well in the wheel winding of the whizzing whiz of the westward world where the whores are dressed in rhinestone and poppy seeds. Spring is dressed up to be seen in her best legalistic light that lasts longer, longer, longer each day. The tulip trees and the daffodils and the dandelions are in full body, bold and beautiful bloom against the prospect of a late frost. The trees drops their pink petals in a sweet smelling show of gravity. I am a juror in the case against the holy canonical hour of spring. The prosecutor of answer weak vows and strangle continence while spring is left to plead his case with the evidence of the purple martin's return to the crime-laden street of my dear Lady St. Louis. The sun is the judge while the wind blows his argument into a crack in the sky, and the blacks in orange jumpsuit following in a row are held prisoner by a chain of dandelions strung around their ankle and handcuff of pigeon feathers around their wrists. Lady Justice, who weep behind her rag, the darkness she sees, the darkness of their skin, hoping to win their freedom from the slavery of a straight-haired commercial society of the so-so city of America, where we are told what to believe in our busy bargain buying of beer and brothsworth. The prisoner know that they cannot be left alone beneath the bones of building bulging out into the still air full of the status quo of the Statue of Liberty, welcoming no more the new bloods. Evident 1. The last of the snow had begun to fall, where the sun avalanche engulfed buildings and trees and the sleeping asphalt of the noonday still, steely, steel and brick-lined streets. Evident 2. A small rain of green thing is budding on the trees, holding a visible nest of a flying creature that once hid itself behind the blinds full-grown leaves. Privacy can be found in the heart of the city, where spring keeps its stronghold stout and stormy, never Nixonized nor Reaganized, never humanized. She recognized the cell-by-cell motion of her birth toward the breath of trees that bleed the bounty of sweet, sticky, stingy sap that creep down the bark of a wounded tree, sap sweet as maple syrup harvest in spring. Evidence 3. The flower of tulips are held in the feeding of their leaves beneath the shadow of Eurasian tree sparrows chirping their throated song atop the railing of a rusted chain-link fence that segment the wind with a lazy lattice liege of steel links. The courtroom is worth $12 a day, a small price to pay the slave wage in the fattest country in the Western world where women wait to wash the tall grass, blade by blade, seed by seed. The case is done, and spring has won. The blacks are released into the custody of the sun where they grow darker day by day, and the darkness cannot be rained away by the whiteness that rules the day in the TV light and the shadows that plays upon the concrete-stained landscape of the intercity's footprint, the showy trowel of abandoned brick buildings with pigeon roofs in the sun-drenched air, and spring is set free to keep to her blooming bare secular values bent and bound by no court. She grows her own endless laws, while time is told to slow its growth, green sing in the fulfillment of the world. I am now outdoors, out into the hugging high wind, singing her songs of freedom. I am frightened by the tone of this poem. I am frightened by a teaspoon of holy water. I am frightened by the strings of the violin. I am frightened by the birth of my darkest mother. I'm frightened by the death of my red-headed lover. I'm frightened by the deep blue bluntness of a thin, bold, bent darkness. I'm frightened by the orders of marching men. I'm frightened by what I must witness. I'm frightened to let the gods in. I'm frightened by the warmth within a body that bends. I'm frightened by the tones of poetry. I'm frightened by keep asking, when will it begin? I'm frightened of a war on the head of a pen. I'm frightened by the motion of a misplaced notion. I'm frightened by the whisper of a begging prayer. I'm frightened and I just can't get out of there. I'm frightened by the perfume of your skin. I'm frightened, but I shall look after men who are my kin. I'm frightened by the guilty gushing nature of money. I'm frightened by the art of making honey. I'm frightened by the wisdom of my sister. I'm frightened by the young and the race of my mother. I'm frightened by the grain of my pubic hairs. I'm frightened, but it will not keep it from going there. I'm frightened by the flight of birds. I'm frightened by what I thought I heard. I'm frightened by the meaning of words. I'm frightened by the desire to win. I'm frightened by the order of time spent in sin. I'm frightened by the music of a half rhyme. I'm frightened by the business of this music of mine. I'm frightened by my need to use it as a lost art. I'm frightened by the myth of the blue held deep in my heart. I'm frightened by what rap would do to tear us apart. I'm frightened by the burning laughter, longing to be brought within the secret of my breath, smelling of rot. I'm frightened, but I'm game to win the mercy of my friends. I'm frightened of what it is that I have forgotten. I'm frightened by those holding the moral ground. I'm frightened by their coming downfall. I'm frightened by the priests' praying hands. I'm frightened by their sins as men's. I'm frightened by their mind poetic calling. I'm frightened of bawling the motion of hand on skin. I'm frightened of the sexual penetration. I'm frightened of its stretching implications. I'm frightened, but I take it all in. I'm frightened by the night watchman keys. I'm frightened by the door that opened when I am weeping. I'm frightened in life or during my time. I'm frightened while drinking from the common well. I'm frightened of the trust that you offer. I'm frightened of the death of my father. I'm frightened by the hunting mean that haunts all the livelong day. I'm frightened by the rigid, righteous way. I'm frightened by the measure breath that sways. I'm frightened that it may not be all okay. I'm frightened by the long ear of the listening reader. I'm frightened by the hetero birthing breeders. I'm frightened by this needier side of life. I'm frightened by going mad and losing my rights. I'm frightened by the time of the God-fearing mean. I'm frightened by the drunken angels that accompany me. They cannot see as I sing the measure of the blues and worthy tune. I'm frightened by the murder on the evening news. I'm frightened by the commercial tones and move. I'm frightened by the grace found in your fair face. I'm frightened by saying, when will you go away? I'm frightened by the hardliner's rigid answer. I'm frightened of reaching for my revolver. I'm frightened of being a lady in a world ruled by men. I'm frightened of being right like the American whites. I'm frightened of a lonely candle's logly gagging lasting light. I'm frightened that white people would do what's right for you. I'm frightened that this may not be true. I'm frightened of the years that living makes of the skin. I'm frightened of trying to hold back the graying years. I'm frightened of being mean. I'm frightened of the birth of trees. I'm frightened of the evening news. I'm frightened that it is of no use. I'm frightened of men who wear suits. I'm frightened of the statue of uniform. I'm frightened of my children will never be born. I'm frightened of the believable things that I have seen. I'm frightened by the fact that I love porn. I'm frightened of the meaning of this poem. Let me be the bard of neutral nature. Let me be the bard of neutral nature, as calm as a falling leaf in mid-fall on a wind that call leaves to gather round on the ground and rub their brown backs together in song. Let me be one with the history that brought us to that motion, moving through the air, dead of wind and moan and whisper, singing the changing of seasons. Let her wintry icy wind blow me closer to her divinity. Fill me with the stolen blood of a mosquito. Fill me with the rot of life leaking away into a new birth. Cloud my eyes with rain that run aground round the gutter. Let it snow from my nose when I blow a cold blow caught. Crack like lightning mine, slight, bright, and electric till I am momentarily blinded by the heat of the crooked crackling fire that momentarily set the sky abrade as to hide our skin. I throw myself upon her mercy to be her chosen bard. I open my heart, my hands, and my head to let her in. Let me sing her glorious wonder till I am embraced, till I am dead down, drawn from my life, leaking breath by breath. Then shall she take me as food for the wild and wed fed. I want to be the bard of the futility of dirt that sticks to the body of a worm, and earn my life and death in return. Tell me, what must I do that my pen bleeds with her blood? Nature, use me with all that is contained within my bones and skin, all that long to create your song from my fertile breath that is a shared thing on the gracious earth. Make my heart a home for the songs of birds. Let them build a nest of my hair. Let your germs make a home of my breath. Let me smell as one with her, roughly wet or musk, meant to attract as a prelude to wet and messy sex. Nature, tie me down and have your way with me. Make me pregnant with life, learning and leaning its way towards the greatness of death that shall come to all in due time. Birth life from the pores of my skin. Let them pop out like chill bumps on the deep blue skin of the sky. Make me a rose with a protected thorn, drawing blood as plentiful as April rain running down the bark of trees. Let my tongue come to easily sing the glorious gray underbelly of clouds as my hair sway like the highest branches of thirsty trees, tall and torn by lightning fingering the sky. Let me rest in the never-ending motion of the world at her feet, free to feed the festering life that oozes from her womb. Hear my cry, echo both day and night, and the poetry of dreams ring loud in the song that I sing to praise thee. Let dogs bark my name in hollow-throated refrain. Let bees buzz within my skull to make the honey of life. Let me be as dark as night in the crowded forest as bright as the sun, willing to burn myself into a dwarfed star. Here I am open and ready to be as simple as the grass, as liquid as glass, as forceful as the tornadic wind in a Midwest land full of corn and wheat and soy and sunflowers. Let my breath spark forest fires in the California hills. Let me be the board of life and death as free and determined as a weed growing in a crack of the concrete. I want to be the board that does not look past the divinity of nature, the known God before our eyes, the God of our daily breaths and the breath of trees, God of sun and moon and all life living lone, leaking a measure of his song. Let me sing with a mouth full of hearty words meant to praise till I am dead and done, and let my poem, now gregarious in the fever of my want to beg that she make a tool of me, let them carry on my song to the yet unborn.